Welcome everybody to Registry Commands and Important Keys. In this section, we're going to be diving into the Windows registry, taking a look at some of the configuration keys and other things that are being set. If you have a forensics background, you probably have a much better idea of all the metadata that is stored in the Windows registry. It's like a giant database. A lot of the different things a user conducts throughout their day is saved in the registry. What kind of programs they're opening, any recent documents they've opened, things like that. And as a red team operator, that means it's a gold mine of information to further baseline and fingerprint the system and to figure out what the user's doing. And because the operating system and software stores configuration data in the registry, we can also potentially find passwords and other sensitive information. But before we jump in, I did want to mention a lot of the keys we're going to be querying, there are no guarantees that they exist on the system and that they're filled out appropriately. As Windows updates, as Windows evolves, a lot of these things are going to shift and move around. They're going to be renamed to different things. So we're going to run through the list. We're going to see what we can query, what we can get our hands on, and we're going to walk through it. So to get started, let's go ahead and open our Kali here in Rogue Arena. Get loaded up. I have my RTFM set here on the side so we can quickly query these keys and reference them whenever we need to. If you remember from our previous videos, we actually had a callback from Phyllis Snyder's workstation. She's logged in, she's running a bunch of different applications and other things. So we're gonna be able to query these keys, hopefully get some helpful data back and understand a little bit more about her role on her machine, and how we can potentially leverage her machine to privilege escalate or expand our access to other machines in the Cyber Inc. domain. So over here, we have our callback just came in. We're gonna do a sessions to list out the different sessions. We're gonna be using Sliver for our scenario. I've already kind of talked about this in previous videos, but you're gonna notice a lot of similarities with Cobalt Strike and some other remote access tools. I always like to try out different options out there. I think it's bad to just only focus on one. It really expands your skill sets to have experience with a bunch of different remote access tools. They are all kind of similar, but they also have their own quirks. Sliver's no different, mainly that command line based interface we've been using. But with that, we have our sessions listed here. Let's go ahead and do sessions TAC I for interact. We're gonna paste in our session ID. Awesome, we're in our session now. We can do a help to list out all the various plugins that are included with Sliver. I know it has support for different types of plugins, payloads, DLLs, other things that you can just kind of build your own tool set and execute through Sliver, which is awesome. It also has support for a bunch of different platforms. Cobalt Strike right now only really focuses on Windows and has a little bit of an SSH client built in, but Sliver allows you to run on a bunch of different platforms. So if you ever get stuck and you need an agent, Sliver's a good kind of multi-purpose tool to understand. So we're going to be using the shell plugin for the majority of our commands. Now, this is because the majority of the commands in the RTFM are Windows native tools. So we don't really need to use a lot of different functionality of Sliver other than the one plugin that drops us in a Windows command prompt. So as you can see right here, I'm running as PowerShell. I'm just gonna go ahead, let's run CMD. That's gonna make sure I'm in a command prompt and then I can run my different commands. So first up here, just a generic string search looking for any keys that contain password. So let's go ahead, I'm gonna copy paste this one right in. This is kind of like casting your wide net, right? You wanna see if there's any passwords or other keys and values that could be of interest on this machine. You're gonna see here, it's gonna take some time to go through, query them all. And honestly, if it were me, I'd probably copy paste all this out into a separate file and call it something like password enumeration to review. A lot of what I do, instead of using these tools and trying to enumerate the data in the machine, I actually like to copy paste out the results somewhere that you can work with it. You can mark the keys, you know, that you looked at it. It's nothing important. And that way you don't miss anything exciting or special. So I'm gonna let this run through. It's gonna take some time. Like I said, I don't know if there's any good passwords in here, so I'm gonna move on to the next key. But if you're on a capture the flag or a real red team assessment, take your time. Go through this entire list, make sure there's nothing of interest or any potential passwords that are stored in the registry. Now, while our previous reg query is running, let's kind of come over here to the RTFM. You have a reg save security hive. This can be helpful to save off the security hive somewhere. A lot of times when you export keys out of the registry, you can actually download those to your attack machine and then mount them to your own registry to be able to query and kind of go through it on your own machine, which is really, really nice. This specific example, RegSave HKLM Security Hive, this does require system privileges. Because we're running as a basic user, Phyllis Snyder, we are not able to run this command. So I'm gonna continue on, but definitely give it a try on your own system. But let's turn our attention to the HKLM software, Microsoft Windows NT current version. This is just a good key. Let's do product name. Let's see what comes back. Perfect. Windows 10 Pro, right? If you're trying to get a good handle on what type of operating system is running on the system, we've already covered a lot of this, but you can go through these other keys, kind of see what values are there, and hopefully learn more about your target. Next up, we have this time zone command, and this one can be a little tricky. Let me copy paste this guy, and we'll talk through why it's tricky. So reg query, let's paste it in here. Whack V, active time bias. This isn't exactly the easiest thing to read, right? You have your reg D word, 0x184. Basically, that's an encoded representation, a hexadecimal representation of the time offset for your time zone. Now, if you Google around, which a lot of red teaming is Googling around, I eventually came to this website. They break down the exact way you convert this over to a actual number of seconds that you can subtract from the time to get your time zone, your offset time. So feel free to jump into this, look at it. We're not gonna cover in depth how to convert it, but I did want to show you another way to get a little bit more information. And this is just an example of kind of being creative and looking around. So let's do a query here. Let's grab our exact path here, and then we'll do reg query, no spaces, so I can just paste this in. Boom, we get a lot more data here, but specifically, I really like this key right here. It actually tells you the time zone key name. So there's a good chance, I mean, this computer has the Pacific Standard Time zone set. So now you could go out on Google. One of my favorite things to do when I'm in these situations is what time is it in Pacific time? And as you can see right here, Pacific time, I'm recording this video July 8th, it is 8:27 a.m. So that's a really quick way you can get what time the computer has set that you're attacking. And this is really important. Let's say you wanted to kick off some type of effect first thing, 8 a.m. when they get to the office, you need to know what time their computer's set for. So yeah, definitely a lot of really helpful things that can come out of that key. Now, spoiler alert, I've run a couple of these and no, they're not gonna come back with data on the specific system. So I'm gonna kind of breeze over them, but you've seen me run these reg queries. It's very, very easy. Again, if you're on a host, it doesn't hurt to look and see what keys do have values on the system. So moving on along here, I believe I already ran this command in a previous video, but hey, won't hurt to run it again, right? Moral of the story here, this is gonna query out all the services on our machine, which is really helpful just in case some admin or some defensive tool has blocked the specific service querying tool. Not a problem, we can query that same data through the registry. So if one area is blocked, we can take that other path and accomplish that same result. Next up, we have a couple software keys so we can get software that's installed to the local system and software that's installed to the local user. So let's get our reg query here, paste it in. And we have a big list here. It looks like we have Mozilla, maybe Firefox installed, some Microsoft things, Google, maybe Google Chrome. And we could query some of these subkeys to get a little bit more information about what software is installed, but we're gonna move on to our next section here, HKCU software. Get the reg query queued up here. Paste it in. And as expected, not a ton of software installed for the specific user. The majority of software is installed for everybody. Up above here, as you can see, you have Python, Red Hat, that's actually some of the virtual machine tools, so a lot of other helpful stuff. We have WordPad. Unfortunately, this key didn't work on my specific computer configuration, so let's keep going on. We'll skip some of these other ones. Typed URLs, this one can be important. So let's go ahead and do our reg query here. Let me pass in our quotes. Perfect. And not really surprising, this is a virtual machine we just set up. Looks like it's just the default Windows page there, but can be kind of helpful to grab the user browsing history. And I'll say this, there are specific applications out there that dump the Chrome and Edge histories as well, which can be important to just see what the user's up to. So go Google those tools, I'm sure you'll find some cool stuff. Now the last key here, I don't have PuTTY installed on this machine, but if you've been in the red team world or you've done a lot of capture the flag type scenarios, this Simon Tatham PuTTY key is like a gold mine. Any sessions users save actually get saved to this key, so you can see what machines they're using SSH to connect into frequently, potentially connection information, and then if your goal is to expand and pivot your access, you basically take those hosts and then enumerate them. see if you can touch them through the user's machine and check some of the other stuff out. But that's a wrap on our registry commands and important keys section. Again, if you're on a system, feel free to run through all those reg queries. It doesn't hurt to see if a key is there, even if it doesn't exist in your specific instance. In the next video, I'm gonna give you all a little overview of Windows Active Directory, why it's important, and why as a red team operator, you should have a really good handle on how it works. So definitely click through to that one, and we'll see you in that video.